This is the Back Porch Education Podcast. Today on the show, Steve and I discuss the relationship between the church and school.
Get your education. Back Porch Education.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Who do you think it is today, Steve?
Frost?
No, it's not.
You're moving away from him. I think you've had a fight with him and he's ticked you off and you've...
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
No.
It's not winter.
That's right.
It's your summer poet.
Frost is... I like Frost a lot, but in the summer when I have time to broaden my horizons a bit, I like to dig into some other poets, and one of my other favorites is none other than Mr. Eliot, T.S. Eliot.
Yeah.
So
not a relative. Let's say that again.
That's right. Not a relative, but he is from Missouri, and I'm from Missouri, so that's something.
The Missouri Elliots have got a rep, though.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, a little weird.
Oh, well, that's Missouri.
The smart ones kept going on out.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
Most Elliots in America are somehow connected to Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Does the
Quite a few
spelling matter?
Yeah.
How, does it kind of tell you when people started breaking off, or?
Yeah, or origin, how they come over.
Okay.
Because, I'm pretty confident that my Elliots are from the potato famine of Ireland.
Okay.
But there is a Scottish clan for Elliots as well. So, I believe its derivation is Gaul.
Okay.
Eliote. There was an
Nice.
E on the end. One of them caroused with William the Conqueror.
Whoa.
So it's old.
That's cool.
It's old.
Nice.
And so, at least last time I looked it up, it was one of the 20 most popular last name or populous last names. So
right behind Smith and Cooper and
it's those guys.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
Wow. Excellent. Well, so this wordsmith.
Did all I could, listeners, to
T.S. Eliot. We're going to talk about the church and education today, and I thought this poem would be an interesting way to begin, because T.S. Eliot, as we know, converts. He becomes a Christian, and does a lot of stuff. Let's not get into a whole history of T.S. Eliot, although it's fascinating. However, before he converts, he's writing poetry, right? And one of his earlier poems is this poem entitled "The Hippopotamus," where he compares a hippopotamus, to the church. It's satirical. That is to say, it's not particularly reverent, right? However, it's pretty interesting to read when you know the end of the story.
Right.
Because you sort of go, wow, he was right, but he didn't realize it. He got some things right. Anyway,
yeah.
It's too much that's not what this podcast is about.
Let's hear it.
But this is good. I'm going to skip the Latin in the beginning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this poem is entitled "The Hippopotamus," and it is by T.S. Eliot. The broad-backed hippopotamus rests on his belly in the mud. Although he seems so firm to us, he is merely flesh and blood. Flesh and blood is weak and frail, susceptible to nervous shock, while the true church can never fail, for it is based upon a rock. The hippo's feeble steps may err, encompassing material ends, while the true church needs never stir to gather in its dividends. The potamus can never reach the mango on the mango tree, but fruits of pomegranate and peach refresh the church from oversea. At mating time, the hippo's voice betrays inflections hoarse and odd, but every week we hear rejoice the church at being one with God. The hippopotamus's day is passed in sleep, at night he hunts. God works in a mysterious way. The church can sleep and feed at once. I saw the potamus take wing, ascending from the damp savannas, and choiring angels round him sing the praise of God in loud hosannas. Blood of the Lamb shall wash him clean, and him shall heavenly arms enfold. Among the saints he shall be seen performing on a harp of gold. He shall be washed as white as snow, by all the martyred virgins kissed, while the true church remains below, wrapped in the old miasmal mist. So, the hippo is going to be saved and the church is going to remain. The church, well, you've heard the phrase, when pigs fly.
Right.
Right.
And so when hippos fly.
When hippos will fly.
Take to wing with the angelic beings.
That's right. Like I said, not particularly reverent.
But he has
But
something.
interesting.
Yeah. My guess would be that my friend Bono has paid attention.
Okay.
Right? I would break bread and wine if there was a church I could receive in, or they put Jesus in show business. Now it's hard to get in the door. He keeps coming back in many of his lyrics to the Eliot theme here that I'm not sure this is what God intended.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I don't think I could have gotten there, but it's the. Well, sometimes we talk about it like visible, invisible church. We try and do that sort of move.
Well, didn't he have the true church?
Yeah, the true church. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He's twisting that knife a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like he's trying to force that distinction. Yeah, interesting stuff. But let's
Can sleep and eat at once.
yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
There is a sense, a prominent call today that the church has fallen asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my scriptures don't teach me to think that way. God's at work in his bride.
Yes.
We do go through phases, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are certainly moments of much more life-giving vitality and other moments where it does seem somewhat slumbersome.
Yeah.
But I think when we get posed to us, as this was posed to us, what should the church be thinking in in today's world? Is there really here in America, I'm going to say, is there really any commonality or relationship? Right, we hear all the time about this almost mythological, because it's not a phrase actually in our Constitution, but this notion of separation of church and state.
Yep.
Right, and now the state has taken upon itself to be the major educator and so it's become tougher for there to be, at least with this notion that religion shouldn't be tying itself up with politics, right? Or we should not be using our government school to indoctrinate children in a religion.
Right.
And I'm not arguing for or against that. I'm commenting on the fact that it puts an odd rift. The church has got to step back and go, well, so is it just Sunday school?
Yeah.
Or what is our role here?
Right. Who is responsible for the spiritual and moral formation of our children than, if not, the school.
If education is the cultivation of wisdom and virtue,
Right.
I can't see writing the church out of that picture.
No, I don't want to.
Right.
I
mean,
don't
they
want
seem to be front and center
Yeah.
in wisdom and virtue,
Right.
and yet separate but equal. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's all these
Right.
phrases that we throw around. I know separate but equal doesn't address this, but the questions fly about, and I think that's part of it is that it's not a polar question, right?
Yeah. Right.
The church, as institutional as it is, sacramental as it is,
Yeah.
a divinely ordained functioning thing, and school, as seemingly indispensable as it is to
Sure.
raising up the next generation, are both focused on serving to the needs of the institution, as I see it, scripturally, the home,
Oh, nice. Okay.
right?
Right.
Mom and dad don't send their kids to Sunday school. They get out of bed and take them, as the
Yeah.
old song says.
Sure.
Right? They're there.
Right.
For better or worse, they're in the same building, whether they're all in the same pew or not. They're there.
Right.
Kids aren't really, in my opinion, in a good, solid Christian home. They are required to be there when the doors are open. And the same, most parents. No, you don't. The government doesn't give you a choice between the ages of 5 and 16.
Yeah, sure. We call it truancy, right?
You're gonna be at school,
Right.
Because it's important to our democracy, it's important to our society, etc. So we recognize the importance of these two institutions, and yet I'm nervous that they rise above the ordained instrument for teaching wisdom and virtue to the next generation, which is the home. I absolutely enjoy them to make use of church and school, but the home should be there too.
Right.
The question is, what is the relationship between these two means to each other?
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's more insightful than anything I was gonna say for this conversation. Yeah, that the home does seem like historically it has served as the primary place of education. And we formerly really had a robust understanding, even if it wasn't articulated by parents, and especially not articulated in this way, but an understanding nonetheless of in loco parentis, right?
Right.
You go there because I can't teach you this, or I'm not going to, because
Right.
I'm
Right.
otherwise employed.
Correct.
But that teacher is there in my place. If they say it, you do it like I said it,
Right.
And it was understood as the for teachers that they were really shepherding, parenting in a sense, the children, right? And so it was the full character, right? The full human,
Right.
was taken into survey, taken into account,
And headed in the same general direction.
right?
Right. So you may not see a few pews up on Sunday your teacher seated at your church, but the really good bet was they were sitting in a pew in some church,
Right.
And that the Christian moral ethic
Yeah.
was informing what was going on at school and at home, and so there was agreement,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is where the question comes up: what happens when church and home aren't as confident in the moral teamwork of school? What happens when schools begin teaching things in opposition, right? And this has been a real problem with the separation of church and state.
Sure.
You can't speak as openly about religious things. And I think that that's somewhat equally applied to other major religions, right?
Sure.
I don't think Judaism or Islam or whatnot is getting free reign while it's just Christianity getting picked up. I think there's, but the one religion that has been allowed is the quote unquote non-religion, right? The secular humanist viewpoint.
Yep.
And it has a few flavors to it, but something about the inevitable progress of man, something about evolution, and I'm not speaking of that like evolution. No. I'm just saying that there are certain
progress.
There are certain faith statements that are still allowed in school.
Yeah.
But when they're bereft of any kind of supernatural authority, right?
They're allowed. They're permitted.
The many religious folk who are using that to educate their children are going to be, hey. And so there's been various responses, right? The church has basically said, look, we'll take over. Sunday school is a fairly new invention in the world. Right. 1850 or thereabouts. And it was originally to help those who could not afford to have their kids in formal education in school learn how to read the scriptures. Right. That's where Sunday school came into being. Right. They got to be able to read their Bible, and these kids can't read. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Teach them. Yeah. Teach them on Sunday.
Right. So we can do this for free for you. We want your kid to be okay.
Right. And it's not going to be everything that formal education could. Okay. They're not going to be reading Latin and Greek as a teenagers, okay? But they'll be able to read their Bibles. Right. And they need to be able to do that. Yeah, exactly.
They'll be good people. And I think that John Paul II sensed this when he put out his Faith and Reason, Fides et Ratio. And pretty early in that work makes the statement that our problem is disintegration. Our whole life is not as together, each part informing all the others as it once was. And you see this in education with the specialization, right? He talks about fragmentation. That's his term. Okay. He says as knowledge and truth is fragmented, the human soul becomes fragmented. And we have the specialist come in and begin implying to the main institution that we're talking about, the home, not, you may not have time or may not have to, you can't teach your kids as well as we can. Right. We're the specialists. We're the experts. We're the professionals. Let us do it. And then, you know your history well enough to know that we start thinking, we got captive kids this much of the day and professional teachers, we can get something done here. Right. And the grand experiment begins. Right. And you have a series of political experiments that go on, and I'm not going to blame one side or the other in the political spectrum. They both like to experiment on kids.
No doubt.
Right. We've had plenty of Republicans and Democrats come up with the grand solution. Yeah. The reform of education. Right. And there are some of us who say the biggest reform would be to bring the church and school back closer to a conversation. Even if it's still a pluralistic conversation, even if it still gives room. Right. When you just say that whole... Right, we've had this conversation about the sciences, right? When you say that ultimate science, theology, doesn't exist, right? It's off the table, gone. You've reduced what can be learned. Right.
Well, and pretty soon you're going to start knocking off the next ones.
Philosophy and ethics are doomed. Yeah. Because they're both totally dependent on theology. Right. And then you're just left with basically materialism.
Sciences. Yeah. Well, and so that's what I was going to say a little bit earlier. I think that in a lot of education, and I don't think that this is only in public schools. Okay, I see this in a lot of places. I think that we've done a pretty sort of a hack job with Occam's razor, right? You get out Occam's razor that says that if you have two equally competitive theories, equally plausible theories, then the one that you should prefer is the one that has fewer assumptions.
Right. Most obvious.
The most obvious answer is probably the right one. And
so what do we...
I'm not saying that there's nothing to that, right? But I think that something like that way of thinking is often used to slash off things that we don't immediately understand.
Yes, right.
And so
to assume simplicity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How could I possibly teach students from different faith backgrounds, and maybe not even from different faith backgrounds, but maybe these students have vibrant faith, like maybe they really subscribe and feel passionately about these things, but they happen to be from different traditions or even different religions.
You can't have Johnny.
Well, then just forget it. Right, yeah, exactly.
Johnny can't try and convert Muhammad.
Right, exactly. Right.
Some of his parents are going to be upset.
Right, so chemistry.
Right. Exactly.
Right. All I have left is biology, chemistry, physics, electrons, math.
The blessed is math, right?
Because
there's what religious subject.
Right.
What possible religious significance could 3 have?
Yeah, right.
Oh, whoops.
That's funny.
But yes, but there's that fragmentation.
Yeah.
Right? And I've gotten myself in trouble. I've taught my entire career in religious schools.
Okay.
And have spent most of it as someone who taught in the theology department, banging the desk loudly in sort of a Martin Luther-esque kind of... Right. I wasn't spitting out Latin. But,
sure.
But this is not a department off in the corner.
Yeah.
We're not in a Christian school because we slapped a theology class 1 hour of the day.
Right.
We're either studying what it means when it says Christ is the Logos, the ordering, centering glue that brings it all together, the point.
Yeah.
Or we're doing no different from the free thing you can get down the road,
right? Which
is simply saying, look, you pick it. If you got to endure English because we require it of you, then endure it and get your. It's not that important.
Sure.
We're just not. There is no theology department, right?
Right.
There's a bizarre little aspect of my college experiences as a Bible education major. They wanted all of us to be certified teachers as we came out of the teachers' college.
Okay.
There's only one state in the union at the time that certified Bible teachers. And that was if you taught Bible as literature in Tennessee schools. So I applied and got my teacher's. When I graduated in 1990, I was a certified teacher.
Wow.
And I was for 10 years until it ran out because I had not been teaching the Bible as literature in Tennessee, which is the only way I could keep that current. But it was just that only one state even considers it a subject in the public school certification world, right? Now, fortunately...
It's crazy sort of like with, I don't mean to cut you off, but just this idea of elective. Like, you can elect to take whatever you want, theology, no. But anything else, man, like pottery, yes. Now, I say this as one having taken pottery. I like pottery.
Right.
But I'm just saying, there certainly are those subjects which they just don't exist in a lot of schools because the school doesn't know how to...
They don't think it's core.
Right.
They don't think it's that important.
Right.
Right. And we recently talked about trying to save the literature department. So, I mean, I've read E.O. Wilson had a big thing here years ago now. I don't remember how many, it's been a while. But he wrote a whole diatribe about how basically the sciences needed to just go ahead and consume the humanities.
Right.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
I mean,
and of course, my man Wendell Berry
yeah.
pushed back on that thing. I mean, directly quotes from Wilson throughout his Life as a Miracle book. He's really stating no.
Right.
Right. In fact, in one of his speeches that he gave, I think it was the Jefferson Award that he received, he comments that we need to stop just having departments of art and science. That the third department needs to be of affection. Right.
Huh.
That we've so divorced even the love of learning from learning. We need a whole department on teaching us what we ought to love. Right. And I think that comes back to our
Gosh, that sounds
point.
an awful lot like the church, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Augustine certainly thought so.
Right.
Ordo amoris.
Right.
It's
exactly.
not... You love, but you need to love rightly. Mm-hmm. And if you love the greatest the most...
Good
the
on you.
lesser... Well, it all lines up.
Yes.
It's just a kite with a long tail, and as long as it's upright...
Mm-hmm.
Everything's lining up.
Right.
But when you flop it,
yeah,
right, and you love the least the best, it's all disordered.
Yeah.
And
more love isn't going to fix it.
Even
it
if
has to be better directed love.
Right, yeah.
Right,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you keep loving the wrong things more, it's messed up.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're going to stomach the notion that by necessity of a pluralist society, we're going to have an religious education.
Okay. Let's
for
go
the sake
on,
of argument.
Sure.
Then, what relationship does the church have to schooling? It must come in with the affection. It must come in with, okay, you're not learning it over there. You must learn from us.
Right.
What is most to be loved? The Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
And so I think Barry's point about the Department of Affection, that is it is very much the church.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good, and I think I like that idea because it goes beyond what I think a lot of people are stuck in, which I don't exactly fault them for this. I understand it, and I think it's birthed out of frustration. Probably frustration is the word, but a lot of church members want to get combative with the school.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet they I don't know, it's strange because they want to be combative, but they also are unwilling to say that they're unwilling to take over the responsibilities that they've given to the school, right? And so
that Chestertonian comment that it's so easy to be a negative critic.
Yeah,
it's the solution that kills you.
Yeah,
right. And I think that's a lot of what we're discussing, the current angst, and there's various responses, right? I don't think there's an answer here.
No.
But it's found in wisdom. It's found in the ordering of our affections. It is found in Christ.
Right.
I know wonderful examples of people who, K through college, their children were in fairly progressive thinking secular schools that were openly against their faith, and their children are wonderful examples of
Christ followers.
We have Josh McDowell having done studies since 1980 about graduates of religious schools,
right,
telling us 80%, pretty much solid for the last 40 years, 80% of the graduates of religious schools have left the faith by the end of college. Now, some of that might be the choice of college.
Sure.
but the numbers.
But they chose college. But that's the college they chose.
Right. Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, their affection is towards it.
Right.
And it isn't that much better for those who chose a religious college.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Right.
And the church has always struggled with generational faith.
Yeah. God has no grandchildren.
We just seem to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Right. And we hate that, right? You and I are both parents, and the hope we have for our children above all else is eternity in heaven.
Yes.
But we can't make that happen.
Right.
We can put them in the way, right?
Yeah.
Right? We can
That's
have them
right.
closer
Right.
or farther away from the truth, and that's our responsibility. And that's really, I think, at the heart of this question is the church needs to be teaching parents how to parent,
Mm-hmm.
along with children how to love the Lord their God.
Mm-hmm.
A catechism,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Right.
That evil word memory,
Yeah.
which is so evil that nobody has one anymore.
Right.
But
It's
placing in their hearts the light that is in Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, I mean, I've heard the word brainwash so much recently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the brain's dirty,
What's so bad?
Scrub that little word. Let's get her cleaned up.
Yeah.
I don't mean whitewashing, because that's what McDowell's dealing with.
Right.
Is a little facade, and then whoosh, it's all gone.
And
once
then
they're free.
real life. Right. Yeah, I think that is. There is this, as long as the church sort of accepts that it is extra, that it's not integral,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's their thing. This
we're
is
in
ours.
trouble.
Yep.
Right? I mean, the church isn't supplementary, right? It's not the third thing. I mean,
200 years ago.
okay,
Which seems like a long time ago. But in the big scheme of things, really isn't.
sure,
You'd be hard-pressed anywhere in the West to find anything other than a church in the center of town.
right,
It was the center of town.
right,
And if there was more than one church, families still flock there, right? Mm-hmm. As I used earlier, the phrase "when the doors." That's my father's phrase.
Yeah.
We'll be there when the doors are open.
when the doors are open.
Oh, come on, Dad! I got a big test Thursday. You want me to go to Wednesday night service? What? It's just. I don't think that ever came out of my mouth.
Uh-huh.
I already knew the answer.
Yeah,
Why bring up a lost cause?
Yeah.
We're going to be. This is just the ethos of our.
okay, so see, that, in you saying that right there is, I think, articulating what I was trying to get at earlier when I was talking about the church not being combative against public school or whatever school, right? It's not the church doesn't need to argue tooth and nail against the school about, no, it needs to be this way. Oh, no. Like,
It needs confidence.
yeah, exactly. Just do.
We
Like-
we are right.
Yeah, like the church
We are in the light.
is an older institution.
Yes.
Right? The church is an institution founded on things far more sturdy. And
And the more so as the school moves away from any sort of
Yes.
long-range vision. This is mostly about college and job.
right,
You know?
right.
I mean, I hate to paint it that, but
No, it
most
is.
listeners will know
Yeah.
that school has been reduced to the game of career.
Yeah.
And so it's given up.
Safety and
Yes.
security through a career.
Right. Unless you think that's the whole of man, right? The full problem,
Right.
and I don't,
No.
right? You can make all the money in the world and be miserable.
Yeah, what is it profit, man?
What's back behind that happiness, right? Well, wisdom and virtue.
Mm-hmm.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your neighbors yourself. Keep saying it, right? So the church has that message. It's still
Yes.
got it. It's never lost it.
Right.
It's just gotten apologetic about it. It's allowed itself
Right.
to be pushed away out of a fear that it might speak the truth. And, these days it's just I don't want to get too political here, but a lot of things get said these days in a context of fear that I'm going to have conflict. I mean, you're talking about combativeness.
Right.
And I think perhaps the other side of that coin is as an absolute fear
Yeah, cowardice.
of any kind of confrontation. Right? The truth's going to step on toes.
No doubt.
My job is to speak it as lovingly as possible, but to speak it.
Sure.
Right? So that coin that's got two sides that Paul hands to us, you can't pick
Right.
the truth in love.
Right.
And I agree with you. I don't think there's any profit in a church going nuclear on any form of school. Right? The homeschoolers have probably all had experiences. Well, you homeschool, like you've damned your kids to a life of digging ditches or something.
Right.
You can do education well in almost any context. The question is, what's meet, what's right for the circumstances.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I would never tell somebody whose circumstances fit either of the three major options that they're wrong if they don't choose some option I think is right.
Yeah. Right.
I teach in private school. I invite people to make full use of my services. I will love your kids and I will teach them well.
Right.
But it's not for everybody. And I don't walk down the street and go, "Ooh, they're wearing a public school t-shirt. They're losers."
Right. Right.
Some of them point at my students and say, "You go to a private religious school, what a loser." But they're kids, right? They're going to say things.
Right.
I'm an adult. I have to be able to look at it and go, there's... If you start doing anything to denigrate any of those three institutions, the church, the school, or the family, you're hurting all three.
Right.
Right. What's the biggest problem you hear of life in the public school?
I don't know. Bullying?
Violence.
Yeah. Right.
Behavior.
Yeah.
School shootings, drug dealing, blah, blah, blah. And it's true. It's not like that doesn't happen in the home or the church even.
Absolutely. Right.
We get those stories on the
Let
news
he without
sometimes.
sin cast the first.
But that's a cultural problem that's affecting all of those institutions. Right? It's not, it's because they're in a public school.
Right.
It happens in private schools.
Yes, it does.
There's some pretty dysfunctional homeschools going down, too.
That's right.
And of course, whichever's your favorite flavor rolls out bad stories about the other two.
Right.
But that's not fair.
No.
Legitimate.
No.
Gracious. So.
Yeah, and I think there is this notion that we can... I guess what I want to say is that when it comes to school, let's just assume that whichever one you pick the wrong one. Okay, whatever that means, fine. If the home and the church are doing their jobs, then
that choice is
a lackluster educational path can be overcome.
Yep.
If the home is not right, and if the church is not right, or I guess I should say, to be fair, the church is not right, I don't care. Honestly, it's like the school. The best that the school can do at that point is to be a refuge and a rescue, and an escape, a temporary respite.
It is a problem of wisdom and virtue.
Yeah.
In the adults, that then affects the outcome of the kids.
Well, Tennyson said it best, I think, when he said, "Let knowledge grow from more to more, but more of reverence in us dwell, that mind and soul, according well, may make one music as before, but vaster."
Get your education. Backwoods education. You can't have your meat if you don't eat your vegetables.